to me this time around. Things were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact, and I can find no rift. This is love, yeah, love. Never known true love before. Seen so many counterfeits that left me on the floor. This is love, yeah, love. All will come to those who wait. Time it cannot know the bounds, and here I don't take. Well, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Xandermonium, the talk show that indeed gets you talking. I'm Xander Gibb.
And I'm Tyhe. Hi.
Coming up on today's show, we'll be breaking down some of this week's hotter topics. Topical debate with Tony Losacco for the Losacco Report. And in part two, Mike and Melissa Horton will be dropping by. They're the co-founders of Yabberz, a social media platform for bloggers. More to come in a mere moment. You can interact with us during the show in the chat room. As per usual, just keep scrolling down. Now, if it doesn't let you in, all you have to do is join with Facebook or Twitter and pledge your firstborn and the money you're going to spend on your next car. No, it's really simple. You can just join by clicking Facebook or Twitter. You can call us on 347-884-9061, or on Twitter, you can tweet me. My Twitter handle is at Xander Gibb, XanderGibb, capital X, capital G. Tyhe's Twitter handle is at Egar, TYHEPAULEGAR, capital T, capital P, capital E. Tony's Twitter handle is at Full Story 2014, FULLSTORY 2014. And you can get Mike's Twitter handle. You can get him at Yabberz, YABBERZ, or you can get him at Mike Horton, MIKEHORTON. Also, Melissa is his wife. I'm the co-founder of Yabberz. You can tweet her at Melissa Horton, MELISSAHORTON. Take a big breath now, Xander. Tweet me if you're too shy, and I will make your point for you. Now, this week's show is dedicated to Alex Shepard, who lost his brave battle to cancer this week. This 13-year-old was an enigma, and his loss is tragic. We at Xandermonium extend our deepest sympathies to his family and pray for a cure to come soon, so no more kids have to be subjected to this hideous disease. Also, I'd like to remember today, Officer Brian Moore, who was laid to rest yesterday. We sending our sympathies out to his family, too. So welcome to the show, Tyhe. I don't know how we follow that, but tell me your week has been fabulous and that it has been trouble-free, because I know mine hasn't.
Well, what can I tell you? It's been a week. I've been manically busy getting. Oh God, I'm always talking about these sites, aren't I? I've been manically busy getting PrideCouples.com up and running, and it's now live. So I'm not going to plug it. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it. But it has not been a trouble-free week, no. But it's been good because I've achieved what I set out to achieve. Moral to that story is, if at first you don't succeed, kill people in your mind, and it happens. I don't know what else to say, really. But if you do want to pledge your newborns to us, feel free, because I'm looking a bit wrinkly. So, you know, the blood of newborn. It's been a while.
Is this the site where you're going to get me a nice brown baby? Is that the site you're talking about?
You've got to tell people that joke, because people are just going to think we're really racist.
No, I'm not racist.
It's a standing joke
way, shape, or form.
For a very long time. Yeah. But that is, the brown baby thing is a long-standing joke. But anyway, yes, well, not yet, actually. It's just started. It is now flourished as an LGBT dating site, but also for friends, or if you want to start groups up, it's a great way of doing any of that. So it's not just about dating. It's not just about sexual intercourse. It's about social intercourse.
Wow! Don't say that on this show.
I know. Sorry. Did I say social? It's so it's about meeting. You know, if you want to meet friends on new social groups as well. Just I wasn't going to plug it, but yes, we are going to get into co-parenting. We're going to help people with that, get people, LGBT people with that, but also in the future, I want to start helping people as well with fostering and adopting. So that's what it's about as well. It's a huge project, and it's driven me insane for the past 6 weeks, getting things ready. But it's now.
I think you mean more insane, don't you?
Well, more further up the hill, dear.
Yeah, let's get it right.
Yeah, fair enough.
So talking about being driven insane, I think the people of the United Kingdom are a little bit insane, if you ask me, because the polls closed yesterday in the general elections in Britain, which threatened to register. The exit poll was threatening to register high on the Richter scale, which claimed that Labour, which is the UK version of the Democrats, were 77 seats behind the Tories, aka the Conservatives, that's the UK version of the Republicans, which left everyone who has a remote knowledge of British politics gobsmacked given the radical demise caused by the Cameron administration. So how had they got it so wrong? How could Labour have been so privately confident of a stirring performance? And if it was right, it was not some calamitous mistake, but what a calamitous 5 years lay ahead for so many people in the UK. No sooner had the exit poll landed than David Cameron and his Bullingdon Mafia were salivating at the prospect of finishing off what they had started, smashing the public sector and the unions, crushing those on welfare benefits, ratcheting up the bedroom tax, which we'll tell you a bit more in a moment. It's nothing to do with sex before you go there. Penalizing Labour-run councils, that's Democrat-run councils, even harder for the audacity to need money to address the large-scale social problems. What the hell have they done, Tyhe? I mean, I don't know if this is, you know, people are saying that it's a rigged ballot, but I'm in awe that they've voted him back in again.
Yeah, well, let me tell everybody what's happened. It's not a rigged ballot at all. What's happened is Scottish people have voted for Scotland for a start, okay? So this is what's happened. Now, the Tories are back in, or the oh God, I keep forgetting what they're called over there. What are they called?
Republicans.
The Republicans. Okay,
Asshole.
so the Tories
Republicans.
Right, they're back in here, but only just. They are only just in, okay? So they have the majority of seats in the House, but only just, okay, followed by Labour. Now, what everybody needs to remember is, are you ready? I'm actually going to sound like I know what I'm talking about here. What everybody needs to remember is the backbenchers, okay, so the people behind David Cameron, hate him. They don't like him at all. So even though they're on his team, so to speak, they're his party, they do not like him. So when he comes to vote things through in the House, he won't necessarily get them through because not all of his party will agree with him. He will have Labour to contend with. And in Scotland, the whole of Scotland now is the SNP. Labour have lost nearly every single seat in Scotland. It's unheard of. It's a historical event. The Liberal Democrats no longer exist. They're pointless. They are pointless. They might as well just pack their bags and get a day job. They are done. Every seat in Glasgow where I live is now SNP. The Labour are done. So actually what has happened in the UK, this is a historical event. And clearly it's become hysterical as well. But Scotland, what has happened, how this has managed to happen, how the Tories have managed to get in as the leaders without a coalition, is because Scotland simply is Scotland has voted for Scotland. Now, although the Conservatives are now the leaders of the UK, because the SNP are now the government, basically the governing body for Scotland, what it means is Scotland has an incredibly strong voice in Westminster because they're governing Scotland. Labour and Conservatives have very few, well, they have no seats in Scotland, basically, or two. So basically, Nicola Sturgeon, who is an amazing woman, and I tell now all our listeners, however million or whatever, however many people listen to us, I voted for the SNP in Scotland, and I am ecstatic along with every other SNP voter who voted, and we all voted because of Nicola Sturgeon, that she's in power, that the SNP are in Scotland, and couldn't be happier. yes, we are a bit gutted that Conservatives are in Westminster, but again, all of us who voted in Scotland voted for Scotland, not the UK, not for England.
Right.
But he's not got an easy time of it, so please don't think that he has. He's really got his hands full here, and if he plays the cards wrong, there will be another vote for independence, and it will be a yes this time. So he really needs to play his cards well. You know what I mean? He's really got to be careful, and he's not got an easy ride ahead of him.
Well, I want to talk for a minute about some of the things that he's done during his tenure that have really kind of pissed people off. I mentioned in my my preamble about the bedroom. Now, most people who get to 60, 65 and then retire, they don't want to sell their homes. They want to keep their homes and live where they've been living, where they raised their kids, where they've lived their life. And I totally appreciate that. But if they have an extra bedroom that they don't use, maybe their family come and stay once in a while. In England now, they're taxing them, well, in the United Kingdom even, they're taxing them more for having that particular room that nobody sleeps in. And that's just one of the examples. Have I covered that pretty well, would you say, about the bedroom tax?
Yes. Yeah, and the shocking thing about that, what happened was it ended up costing more because the people who couldn't afford the tax wanted to give up their flats or their houses, but the government, the local authority had no way to house them, so they had to put them up in bedsits, and it ended up costing more money to pay their rent in bedsits than it did in the flats in the first place. So it cost millions for taxpayers because of that. So it was a disgrace in the first place.
Now, whilst financial costs are obviously a big implication for people, one thing that concerns me more about David Cameron and his people is the number of costs of life, the number of people that have legitimately been on state benefits because they have a disability and can't work or are not able to look after themselves. They've actually just pulled that rug out from under them, taken that money from them, and some people have actually taken their lives as a result of that benefit being taken away from them. Because how else are they kind of meant to survive? And to me, I'm not belittling the financial cost of these things, but to me, the loss of people's lives really is far more important. As far as I'm concerned, and I'll probably don't send me your emails because I don't really care whether you agree with me or not, but I think that David Cameron has got the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has got blood on his hands. It's one thing wanting to make a change and to make a difference and to get those people that shouldn't be on benefits off, but getting rid of people off benefits that need that to genuinely survive, to me, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, and that guy has blood on his hands.
Well, Ian Duncan Smith is the gentleman in charge of all the benefit actions that, in the name of Mr. Cameron, and he is the most disgusting human being I think I've ever heard in my life. And he's been just ripping benefits out of people's hands. But Cameron as well. I mean, as you know, he started to take. Sorry, Joe. People are asking in the chat room about the benefits you're talking about, Xander. I can't multitask. Sorry, Joe. He was taking benefits away from disabled soldiers when they came back from Afghanistan. They were saying, "Oh, you're fine now. You can walk. You don't need this. You don't need that. We'll take those back." And they were literally ripping these benefits out of the hands of former soldiers who would risk their lives for us. And then just before the election, he was saying, "No, of course I stand by our soldiers. It's very important that we support our troops and those who put their lives in that, up for us." And I was just disgusted. I almost, if it hadn't been my TV, I'd have spat at it. And Cameron was coming up with all this, talking about the troops specifically and saying how he was behind them. And I just thought, no, hang on a minute. 2 years ago or more, you were allowing Ian Duncan Smith and you yourself were ripping these benefits out of the hands of our former serving soldiers, because you were saying, no, you're fine now, you're back here. It doesn't matter that you lost both legs or that you're traumatized for the rest of your life. the point is you can walk across your own living room, and by the way, we're going to charge you for that extra bedroom. Now you're supporting them because you want to get voted back in. And so they're a disgusting party. I mean, they're the same as your Republicans. But then, you lot vote for...
Sorry, I have to
you vote for the Republicans as well,
Some of our Republicans. I've been on this mission to stop generalizing. Because, yes, there are some Republicans.
But it doesn't matter. Some Republicans, all Republicans, one Republican. But at the end of the day, what matters is how they behave when they're in power. And unfortunately, some Republicans who aren't horrendous human beings are the ones that don't have power when they're in office. And the ones who do have power are the ones that behave this way. So I apologise to Republicans out there who are decent human beings and Conservatives out there who are decent human beings. I have friends who are Conservatives. We don't talk about politics though because I cannot get into it. It's
very hard to.
Because I just do not agree with the politic at all. But the people in power, who get there, who prove basically that power corrupts, because the first thing they do is take care of themselves and their friends, and here we are. Do you know what I mean? And here are those people are now, in food banks basically. And that's the other thing as well about that. We have more food banks now than we've ever had, and yet this man's telling us that we're in a better situation than we have been in 30 years. And I'm like, really? Well, 30 years ago, Margaret Thatcher was in power, and people were losing their jobs, losing their homes, and fighting on the streets for freedom, for their dignity. So it's quite an interesting.
I actually have to laugh when some Americans say to me, because they know about my British connection, and they say, "Oh, we really loved your Mrs. Thatcher," and my response is, "You loved Mrs. Thatcher? Oh, yes, she was a wonderful lady." Well, I just think that it's kind of like when British people say, "Oh, I think Reagan was wonderful." If you didn't live in the country when the person was actually in power, it's very difficult. And again, no disrespect to Mr. Reagan, but definitely lots of disrespect to Mrs. Thatcher. But she was a thug, and she messed the working class people up. She came down heavy on the unions. She didn't want the unions. She didn't want workers to have rights. She didn't want equality in pay. And then she turned around and said she'd actually been saying all along that women should be paid the same, but that's not what she started off saying. It's one thing for your message to change, but for it to change so radically, for you to damage so many people in the process, for me it's a great concern. So don't tell me that Mrs. Thatcher was a wonderful woman, because she was only wonderful for those that had money, and that's the concern. That people in power should be looking out for everybody, not just giving tax cuts to the rich, because let's face it, they're not the ones that need them. How are they the ones that need them? Because for me, the people that actually need tax cuts are the people who are poor, the people who are surviving on less than a minimum wage. They're the people that need the help, not the people with the money.
Well, that's always been the way, isn't it? And if they did it the other way around, I've always thought the economy would work much better. But that's the point. I have to say hello, by the way, to my friend David, who they're all tuning in and listening to the show tonight. So hello, David, Mac. I'm not going to mention your full name, but I just had
we want his address and all his personal information.
Well, this is how the reason why I'm taking the evening off the show next week. Is it next week, the 23rd?
No, it's the week after.
Oh, it's the
week
after.
So you better be here next week, dear.
No, I'll be here next week. Sorry, but the week after, then I'm taking the week off. The week is because I will actually be at their Eurovision party. So there you go. That's exactly how gay I am, ladies and gentlemen. I will be the Eurovision Song Contest party.
That's disgusting. We don't have gay people on this show.
So hello, David and Martin. So there you go.
Anybody would think we're gay friendly. But
I'm sorry. I never said they liked me. I just said I'll be at their party.
Absolutely. I have to question. Just going back to the UK election thing. I really have to question the mentality of this vote, because I know it was a very low voter turnout. But if you don't vote, it's tantamount to me to that being a vote for the other party. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to have a say, you should have gone out there and voted. You can't piss and whine about it now. But I just worry for the next, how long are they in for? 4 years, 5 years?
5, 4.5, isn't it? 5 years. But you get that in every country. I mean, nobody apart from, isn't it Australia? I think Australia you get fined. It's serious. It's a serious deal if you don't vote. I'm sure it's Australia. You get fined quite a hefty fine if you don't vote. And I think that should be how it is in every country. But it should be a serious deal. You know, people put their literally put their lives on the line for us to be able to vote, particularly women in this country, certainly.
Exactly.
But then again, there is always a danger that somebody is just going to stick a cross in a box because they're a moron. But that's the problem, isn't it, with voting? But we don't really hold anybody to account either, do we? They get away with murder almost. Actually,
you know,
they probably have to away with murder. But the thing is it's holding people to account and really holding and bringing people to task about what they say and what they do. Because the promises they've made in this country over the past few months, the promises that the leaders have promised, you know, if you vote for us, this is what we'll do. To my mind, and to friends of mine as well, we've talked about it. Said, well, you should have been doing this anyway. Why is this a bribe? You should have been doing this. But they're saying, oh, but if you vote for us, we'll do it. You know, we'll put this in place. We'll keep the NHS together. We'll put more money into whatever. You know, these are things that should have been done. They shouldn't have to be bribing us.
Exactly.
These things should just be done as a matter of fact. But they're not, and we fall for it all the time. And we still allow them to get away with bribes and whatever, you know, and theft and.
If the party that wins, if they were actually charged with doing all of the things that they said they were going to do in their manifesto and they didn't, and they kicked them out for not doing it, how long do you think any of these people would be in office? And regardless of their political affiliations, they would be in office for 5 minutes.
But it's not the political affiliations, is it? It's the companies behind them. It's the businesses behind them. There's nothing. Most of the running of countries is nothing to do with politics anymore. It's to do with money, and I think anymore. It's always been money. It's not the politics that pull the strings. It's the money behind it. And because they've just recently talked about, you know, before they changed all the laws here, it said, oh, we're going to close the loopholes on tax, you know, for places like Google and Starbucks, but there are more loopholes through that, you know. So anyway, moving on. I believe
we have run over time on our segment again. It's now time for the Losacco Report. Tony Losacco is a broadcaster, libertarian, and free thinker. His uncommon common sense has graced the airways on the show many times, but today he joins us once again as a segment anchor for the Losacco Report. So without further ado, I give you Tony Losacco. Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Xander, how are you? How are you, Ty?
I'm good.
I just got myself in trouble on Facebook again.
Excellent.
Boy, people like to call me names. People like to call me names when I state my opinion. Gosh.
What were you called today? I'd be interested to know.
Would you like to know? A woman hater and an asshole, to be direct.
What were you actually talking about when they called you a woman hater and an asshole?
Well, I did what I do many times, and I responded to a post that I felt didn't have a whole lot of thought. It was basically about a man hitting a woman and how a man should never hit a woman and they're pieces of crap if they do. So I just responded. I said, I agree with you as far as abuse goes, but if a woman's being violent or aggressive with a man or punches them in the face, then the man has every right to hit them back. And I told him that was an antiquated, old school type machoism, and that's what it reflected, that there shouldn't be a double standard today when women are in positions of leadership and police officers in the military. And I got cursed at, threatened, called a woman hater and an a-hole.
Okay, well then, so for everybody listening, I'm with Tony. Ladies, if you come at me with a chair, I'm going to punch you.
So what we're saying is that nobody should be laying their hands on anybody, is what we're saying. Basically.
Well, right, and that's what I said. Right, if you're not going to hit somebody back and you feel you're more of a man for walking away, I totally agree with that. But if you're going to say two genders are equally aggressive and coming at you, but you are evil if you hit a woman back, but it's okay to hit a guy back for doing the same act, I don't see I just don't get it. I never have, honestly.
Well, we'll be getting
I'll probably get beat up on the street for that.
We'll be getting some calls
we
about
probably
that,
will, but
I'm sure.
But Xander and I were talking about this off air actually through the week, not about hitting women, but just that idea about people, not saying, of course, we don't want to hit anybody, but why would you just stand there and let somebody punch you? It's absurd.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid, I think so. You're right, Tony. I am with you in that sense that if you were going to defend yourself, I don't care whether they're male or female. If somebody's going to try and physically really hurt me, I'm going to defend myself, and if that involves me hitting somebody, then I'm going to do it. So yeah, you're right. I'm with you.
Absolutely.
I mean, most women wouldn't hit a man, I'm sure.
Oh, of course, never. So what did you bring for us today, Tony? What have you brought to the plate to get everybody stirred?
Okay. I am going to bring to the plate today I admit this is an old news story that I dug up. This is not recent. It's from a few years back, actually. But when I saw it, I was taken aback by it, and I couldn't believe it. And as you know, and everybody's a hypocrite to an extent. I'm sure if you dug through my life or my statements enough, you'd be able to point out something hypocritical I said. But when it's so blatant and obvious, I like to point it out and say, this is wrong, man. How can you say this or do this? And in this case, it's with Christian evangelical fundamentalism and their hatred of gay people. Their hatred of gay people.
You've been reading my column, haven't you, Tony? Be honest.
I did read your column, and it was excellent, by the way, Xander. And I guess great minds think alike, because I was on this topic and heated about it, and your column had it. Now, you both know, you've heard me rail on the gay rights and the LGBT community before for going too far with things, okay? Yeah. And legally, I'm a libertarian. Legally, I will defend the right of a Christian to be a bigot all they want and exclusionary, because I am a libertarian and I believe they have the freedom to do so. But one point I want to make is, just because you have the legal freedom to do something does not mean that it is right or morally right to do it. We've seen that in Texas with the terrorist activity, for instance, okay? I do defend her freedom of speech. Absolutely. I'm not arguing that. But was that a wise or prudent thing to do or a right thing to do? I don't believe so. Should it have been done? No. Did she have the freedom as an American to do that? Absolutely. Well, it's the same with the Christian community. They may have the right to be bigots, and they may have the right to be hateful, and I will defend their right to do that to the death. But this goes back to a story. Are you familiar with World Vision and the charity that feeds the children all over the world?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay. And I think most of us are familiar with World Vision. They feed hungry children all over the world. It's where we see those sponsorship ads, sponsor the child, and those tragic pictures, and we give monthly money to sponsor the children, to feed. What could be more Christ-like and gospel-like? What does Jesus talk about? Feeding the hungry, taking care of the poor. In fact, Jesus said, true religion before God, it's in the book of James, is to take care of widows and orphans in their distress. So a few years back, World Vision in Christianity Today issued a statement saying, this gay marriage thing is debatable. We have couples that are gay that want to serve on World Vision. We are going to hire them, and we are going to let them serve, because this is a topic that we don't want to address. It was nice of them. They reversed their decision within 48 hours. It took less than 2 days.
Wow.
Franklin Graham and the prominent evangelicals, including the Assemblies of God, like I said, Franklin Graham and all the prominent ones, not only did they criticize World Vision, but I got no problem with if they were just criticizing the place or maybe stopping donations. Hundreds and thousands of dollars. People stopped sponsoring hungry children because of this. They withdrew their sponsorship from starving children because they didn't like the fact
that a charity feeding starving children was going to allow gay people to feed starving children. So they stopped feeding the starving children. What kind of BS is that?
Wow, fantastic. That's a perfect example of pseudo-Christianism, isn't it? There you go. God loves us all. No, stop feeding those children because there's a homosexual nearby. That is just a perfect example of hypocrisy in perfection, isn't it? That's just perfection. That's what should be on their T-shirts. We let children starve.
It is.
I just think.
Go ahead, then.
No, I was just going to say, I just think that as somebody who professes to be a Christian myself, well, Jew for Jesus, whatever you want to call it, I'm astounded sometimes at the attitudes of some Christians, and it's kind of do as I say and not as I do. I'm not perfect, you know. I'm sorry to disillusion you of that, but I really tried to evolve in my life, and I try to treat people how I want to be treated, and that's really hard sometimes. But sometimes these people that profess to be Christians and they turn around and behave in that way, I just think, where is the Christ-like behavior that we're supposed to be expecting from you?
And you know, the funny thing is, it exposes itself in the end to anybody who really wants to see the truth. Because, I mean, when you have Westboro Baptists protesting funerals and people talking sodomite and go to hell and abomination, it sounds hateful, but you stroke it off to religion. But here, this story that was buried in the news gets down to the real evil of the situation and the nuts and bolts. They would rather not follow the commands of Jesus, and they would rather starve children to death, literally, or withdraw their support from keeping a child from starving to death, than allow a gay person to help somebody else. I mean, that is insanely against the gospel and against everything Jesus stood for.
And you know, I was just going to say, Tony, as well. Let's go. I mean, I'd love to invite one of them, any one of them, to take me to the page of the Bible or the Scripture that says that is okay. Where does it say? Now, forget the fact that, no, hang on a minute. Don't tell me that you don't like me as a homosexual. That's fine. And stop using that word, because as we've said on the show before, the three of us, you know, that word didn't exist then anyway. But so you're talking about that. But show me on the page where it says it's okay to let an innocent child die because you don't like the fact that there's a sodomite wandering around.
Who's feeding them? Yes.
But I have to say, aside of the, I'm sorry, Tony, aside of the gay issue, let's take the gay issue out of it totally. And anything I've ever read in the Bible, when it's said about helping others, there's never been any stipulation as to who not to help. It's even said in the Bible about, you know, helping those that oppress us. Love those that oppress you. Love those that attack you. And so where is the biblical example for refusing to accept help from somebody, from a certain group in society, or refusing to help someone from a certain group in society? Because surely being a good Samaritan, for want of a better phrase, it should be about helping anyone in need of help, and that should be the only stipulation, not anything else. If you need help, then let's help you.
But the idea as well. Go, Tony. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Ty.
But I was just going to, the point being, though, that I think that I was making to Tony, though, Xander, as well, and Tony, but it's just the idea that whether we're the Good Samaritan or not, the point is that the fact that they're allowing, they would happily let children die because the Samaritan is the person they don't agree with, though, isn't it? That's the point. And I just love to see the page in the Bible that says that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was just going to say. The very same thing. Even the tax collectors. Jesus came and he sat and dined with tax. He called the tax collector the most hated person, the traitor to the Jews at the time. Come, follow me to take part in ministry. Like you said, the Good Samaritan. Jesus taught the opposite. They're going against the very core teachings of their religion by doing this. But this is not, and that's what I was getting to. I gave you the extreme example first. This is not just limited to homosexuality with the Christian church today. There is a lot of hypocrisy going on. We had 2 blockbuster movies in Hollywood. We had 2 blockbusters. We had Noah first, and then we had Exodus, God and Kings come out. I saw both movies. Now, when Noah came out, the Christian evangelical community
Noah was gay?
No, they did not like the movie Noah. They said it was not true to the Bible. It had nothing to do with gay. They said, oh, this movie takes the Bible and distorts it, and there's too many fallacies. They told their people not to go see it and how bad the movie was and how it distorted the Word of God. Because there was a lot of artistic license in the movie. And you know what? From a biblical perspective, it was wacky, quite honestly. If you read the Bible, Noah in the movie basically got his information from like a drug, basically, that the father-in-law was giving him. Rock people were coming out, and they were the falling angels. So it was a departure from the Bible. But it had some of the Bible in it, and it was a great movie. In contrast, Exodus, God and Kings came out, and the evangelical fundamentalist community loved it, threw their support behind it, Hollywood blockbuster. Well, that movie, Moses in the movie, has his apparition of the burning bush when he has a mudslide fall on top of him and almost dies, and God speaking to Moses is a little child that only Moses can see. So both movies took artistic license and made good movies. Neither movie was true to the Bible text, but they both exaggerated, added fiction in, and made a great movie. So why would the evangelical community support one movie and not the other? Any ideas? Because I can tell you why.
Because, go on.
The reason is simple. The first movie was made by a non-Christian, an atheist. The first movie was made by a director who did not claim, how dare a non-Christian make a Christian movie, right? The second movie was made by, bless her heart, I love Roma Downey. She's done a lot of great things for the kingdom of God, and her work is great, and I've watched her from Touched by an Angel on. And but she made the movie, but she's in with all the evangelical fundamentalists. See, I mean, I don't see the difference between the two movies in the artistic license. The difference is one was their own person, and the other was the enemy. And this is this church mentality lately, this hypocrisy and this us versus them. And you hear it on Fox News, for instance, all the time. The persecution of Christians, the persecution of Christians. It's gotten way out of hand.
So what I want to ask Tony then is how do we as a wider community respond to this, and how do we change this?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that, like you came right out and said you're a Christian, for instance, Xander. I
just outed myself.
I hesitate to call myself that anymore. I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I believe in one God, and I believe the same things you do. I believe in the Bible. I believe in Jesus. But calling myself a Christian, it's like you're automatically put in this box of what they've distorted Christianity to be, which is far from Christ's teachings. And it's sad that it's come to that in the Christian community, and I think that things will get better when people start standing up to their churches, to their pastors, and start saying, no, that's not true. That's got nothing to do with the Bible. When people can walk into churches on Sunday and walk out of churches when the pastor starts telling them who to vote for in an election and telling them that's the will of God, that's when things will change, But until that time, when people begin to think for themselves, even with homosexuality, I don't get into the debate of whether it's sin or not sin. I just simply say, if I'm a sinner, everybody's a sinner, though. Isn't that why the Savior died, to save sinners?
Absolutely. Well, what would have been the point of the need for salvation if there was no sin, Tony. I'm sorry to break you off there, but we have come to the end of our segment, and our next guests are in the virtual green room. Please tell people where they can find you on social media so that they can carry on this civil discourse with you.
I better not after that woman comment. You never know, I might get more threats.
Yeah, all the women's lib groups are going to beat you up now, Tony. You realize that, don't you?
You can find me on, actually, I made it easy for people. If you go to the full story on Facebook, that's my webpage. You can also find a lot of my personal posts on Anthony Losacco. That's just my name on Facebook. I'm really not active on the Twitter account, as you know, right now. So you can look me up either under Anthony Losacco or the full story.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us again today with another installment of the Losacco Report. Make sure you check out Tony on Facebook and Twitter, not so much. Tony will be back in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, to either co-host or to give us another installment of the Losacco Report, but make sure you check in on him in the meantime. But for now, Tony Losacco, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great week.
Take care, Tony. Pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. As I said, make sure you check out Tony on social media. Check him out on Facebook and Twitter, and tell him that Xander and Tyhe sent you. Yabberz is a unique social news platform for bloggers and commentators to share ideas and discuss wrong teeth in today, complex issues in an intense yet fun and safe environment. We're joined today by its co-founders, Mike and Melissa Horton. So welcome to the show, guys. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having us, Xander. This is Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Horton,
how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
And this is Mike Horton. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Great to have you. You're live on Xandermonium with myself and Tyhe Egar. So tell us, where did the name Yabberz come from, and what's it all about? Tell us a little bit more about what you're looking to achieve with the site.
So Yabberz came about because it's a play on the word yabber, like just chatting back and forth. So it's yabber with a Z. We are a site for civil discourse. We are a nonpartisan site. What we hope to achieve is to kind of give back the microphone to the American people, or the average person out there. Actually, I shouldn't say it's just to the American people, because 20% of our users are international users. So we allow people who have something important to say it and be heard.
Brilliant. So, Mike, how many members do you have to date? How many people are joining you and interacting with you?
We have around 20,000 members now. It's been going very rapidly. We get about 100 members a day joining the site. Some people participate through rating other commenters, so we have a unique point system where you can upvote posts that you like and share posts that you like with friends, as well as sponsor posts. And then we have some really prolific, great commentators who actually put up really interesting pieces. And I think what's unique about Yabberz, different than other sites that focus kind of on news and commenting on news, is we start with the commentators first. And our emphasis is really on the people themselves talking about the news and allowing them to develop their own identity and their own following on their take on the issues of the day.
Absolutely. So what do you feel, I don't get a chance to interact with you a lot on social media because I'm busy, but I noticed that all the way through the day you're putting on subjects for people to comment on. Who chooses the topics? Do you, does Melissa, do you both? And what kind of sources do you look for to get these topics?
So all the topics that we post are actually directly from Yabberz. So these are things that users have put up during the day, and we're simply picking topics from users that seem to be gaining momentum on Yabberz and sharing them on other social media to invite a broader audience.
Yeah, so what we hope to achieve is that these users kind of build a brand name for themselves, and so we select all of our topics on Yabberz. So if you put something up and you're gaining momentum, or sometimes we feel that the topic itself is very interesting, or it's news that hasn't gained momentum yet, but it's very interesting and relevant to some of the things that are happening today, then we choose those to kind of promote on our social media sites. So we promote our commentators. That's just one way how we promote our commentators. We market them, we market their comments, and like I said, it's a place to be heard if you have something important to say.
So that's what I was, sorry, this is Tyhe, Melissa, Mike, hi.
Hi.
I just realised my voice dived in from the darkness there. So what I was going to ask, because I had a chance to look at, I was on Yabberz earlier today, so I only had a chance to kind of fly through, but this is what I was going to ask as well. So if somebody finds a news article, say, you know, the other side of the world, and thinks this really needs to be seen, people need to hear about this, is that the kind of thing you help with as well? So they can post it on Yabberz, and you would then promote that through and help people see that, because, you know, we were talking about earlier then, I don't know if you were listening, but, you know, these stories sometimes kind of get almost deliberately hidden in the news, and they're actually really important and people really should hear about them. So is that what Yabberz could be used for as well? Or that's it used?
Absolutely,
or
you can do that, and you'll find quickly, if you post a story with a link, you'll find a lot of people jumping on to talk about it. So I think one of the things, there are a lot of places where you can post things and sort of distribute it out and sort of push it like a news story. What I think is unique about Yabberz is it focuses a lot on the commentator and a lot on interaction. So it's a fun way to interact with the rating system and the sharing system. It's exciting, and you can find people to actually talk to. And if you compare that to, like, commenting on the news on, say, a CNN, well, actually CNN has basically taken away commenting, or a Huffington Post, where they moved it to Facebook, you'll find you post there. First, if you want to find a lively discussion, first you got to find an article where there actually is a quorum of people talking. Well, there's always a quorum of people talking at Yabberz, so you don't have this issue of trying to find an audience. You have it instantly there for you, and you can dive in and interact. So by reversing the order of sort of saying, putting the comments first and the article underneath, if you will, as opposed to the article first and the comments second, we really highlight the commenters, and we really make it an easy place for people to find conversation and to find interaction, as opposed to kind of hunting through websites, scrolling past all the ads, getting to the bottom, finding a comment section, and then finding out that no one's actually there. There's some comments there, but they're from, 2 days ago, and no one's there to talk to you. So the social element of our site's very important, and the fact that we put the comments first means that it's easy for people to get involved in a discussion. And I think that's why people spend, on average, 17 minutes on our site, is because they can quickly find a dialogue with people of like mind or people of opposing views. And by being nonpartisan and emphasizing really a debate-like element to it, a civil debate-like element, there's a lot of chances to interact with people that you would ordinarily never interact with on social media because you don't agree with them. You have a different point of view. And what we emphasize is the ability to challenge yourself to hear the other side, which is less and less. A study just came out that is a controversial study as to whether or not Facebook is showing you what you want to already hear in your news feed. And there's a debate going on. I don't think they have an answer, but I think there's pretty good evidence in what I read that, in fact, what you see on Facebook is what you want to see. You're basically seeing things that reinforce your own point of view. Well, if you look at Yabberz at all, I think you'll pretty quickly find that that's not the case on Yabberz, that there is a lot of real honest, earnest discussion from very differing points of view on tough topics.
Yeah, and also
go on, Melissa. Sorry, go.
On Facebook, also, a lot of people don't want to necessarily talk about politics or some very difficult issues that might kind of strain their family relationship. So they talk about it on Yabberz with people who enjoy these kind of conversations. So you might not necessarily want to log in and talk about abortion or, sex, whatnot, with your mother-in-law, but you might find it interesting to have other people like to talk about these very difficult topics or debatable topics with some of your peers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because what you're talking about with Yabberz as well, I think the really interesting thing, you're right as well, Mike. 17 minutes these days is a long time for somebody to spend kind of debating about anything online. And Melissa, as you're saying then, because the thing about Facebook, I mean, you'll get no argument from Xander and I as far as Facebook's concerned. But the thing about that as well is you're absolutely right. The problem with Facebook as well is people have so many friends attached to it now. You could never have that kind of in-depth kind of conversation without everybody knowing your business. So to be able to come to somewhere like Yabberz and have that kind of, because that could be a really important conversation for a young person, you know, because I'm kind of involved with the LGBT community. So it could that's something that could be really, truly important for somebody. So it is important to have that kind of perspective. And as Mike was saying, definitely come. I mean, I would rather come and have a decent debate with somebody than have 28 people agreeing with every word I say. So again, that was something that really interests me as well. So I'm becoming more and more impressed with Yabberz.
I think the other thing you'll find is that if you do, and there are places on Facebook to engage in debate, and in fact Melissa was doing some of that before we started Yabberz, Facebook is not built for it. So it doesn't provide the tools to make it a really effective place to have those conversations, even if you're willing to do it in front of your friends. And even if you're willing to put up with that, it doesn't provide a rating system that allows for any disagreement, and it doesn't provide mechanisms to kind of deal with the fact that you're going to be in an environment that conversations are going to be more difficult. And I think those type of conversations and those type of discussions, I think, we're really pushing cutting-edge technology to try to make it both civil and intense. And if you look at reasons why has CNN removed commenting from their website, why has Twitter come out and said trolling is their #1 problem? It's because it's hard to have an environment. It takes actually a lot of programming and a lot of coding to think through how to build a structured environment that encourages people to not just go crazy and absolutely bash other people when they disagree. Because that is behind whether you're using a real name, it's not a real name problem, by the way. It's, people think this is an anonymity problem. It's not. We've studied it. People are very atrocious at times on Facebook in terms of behavior. So I really don't buy that it's a real name thing. It's really building an environment, a structured environment that has rewards and has flagging mechanisms, and we notify people when they're flagged and give them direct feedback as to why, to try to produce a constructive dialogue. And that's what we're doing at Yabberz, is we're really pushing the envelope, I think, on the technology to try to create an environment that curbs people's desire to just scream, and that is a common phenomenon online. And that's why sites like CNN drop comments. I mean, they've said it publicly. You can look it up on Google. Why did CNN drop commenting? They have it on a very few articles now. The comment volume is probably 1/10,000th of what it was, say, a year ago. They cut it way back because they were having so many awful conversations on there where people were just out and out abusive, mean, using the voting system in scammy ways. There were actually, attacks and things. And this stuff takes a lot of effort to build an environment that is supportive of that. And Facebook has different objectives. So I think that gives us an opportunity to grow. It's not as large a community, but a significant community around these concepts.
I mean, I totally think there are numerous problems with Facebook. I mean, not just the things you've mentioned, and the level of bullying that actually goes on Facebook. And Facebook will say, "Oh, we deal with this, but we don't deal with that." For instance, if someone harasses someone for being a Muslim or says anything anti-Muslim, Facebook are right on it. But if someone calls someone a kike for being an anti-Jew, for being a Jew, being anti-Jewish, they do nothing about it. And I think there's an enormous gap in the market right now for something to take over from Facebook, because they've made the money from us, but they've not listened to us. I picked on something you were talking about a little while ago, Mike. They've actually sent me lists of people to add as a friend, and if I add some of them and they say, no, I don't know Xander Gibb, even though Facebook have sent me that connection, they will block me for a week or 2 weeks without any conversation.
We ran into the same problem. That's funny.
Yeah, like it's some kind of Gestapo,
They're a little nutty that way. I think. it's a highly contrived environment, and anyone who thinks it's at all sort of real time or a reflection of what's really going on, I think is sorely mistaken. Because of the sheer volume they have, they're able to just contrive everything up, and I think there's a lot of good things about it, but its objective is to make people feel good, not think very much, and spend a lot of time on their properties. That's kind of their modus operandi, right. And that's not ours. Ours is to try to inform people, get people to think outside the box, get people to challenge themselves. This may not be something you want to do every day, all day long. This may be something you want to do when you really feel like I really got to understand this issue better, and I want to get other perspectives. And I think that's where we fit in, and people enjoy it. Sometimes it takes users a little while to find a rhythm because it is such a different experience. It's not like commenting on a news site, which is kind of a one and done type of thing. This is a real environment. People stick around, get into long discussions on things, and it's not here's a cute picture of a cat and here's a thumbs up for you. We don't do that. That stuff doesn't fly on Yabberz. It's for real discussion.
Absolutely. So one of the things I'm really wondering, and this is kind of where my journalist, chat show host, whatever mind kicks in. Do you have lots of famous members, and do they kind of contribute? Do they get involved, or do they just kind of come on there for the adoration?
No, I would say we don't have any famous members. We are trying to make famous members. We're trying to help people.
Apart from me, of course.
Well, is Hillary Clinton on Yabberz? No, and we're trying to help people grow their own identity and their own brand of commentating. And I think what happens a lot of times when sites get things like that is the site becomes sort of revolves around celebrities, and that distracts people from being able to be social and be able to be interactive. And to be honest with you, I think that's a little bit of the problem Twitter has, is that they've lost the social element in their network, and it's just become a one-to-many communication channel for celebrities. And that's not at all what we want. We really want people to be able to find a place for themselves to be heard and not be drowned out by the sort of, 1 to 1 million type of commenting that takes place on, say, a Twitter, for instance.
Right.
Absolutely.
And, getting back to kind of the trolling problem, I think that a lot of sites now politics is not something that they want to pick up because it can be very divisive. And, there's a trolling problem as well. And a lot of sites kind of remove themselves out of that. And, one troll could kind of ruin it for everybody. One bad apple kind of disgraces the whole tree. And that's unfortunate because we do feel that the average person needs to be heard. We do feel that the average person has something meaningful to say, and it's unfortunate that a lot of sites are kind of dropping all these comments because one bad apple kind of ruined it for everybody else. So
Absolutely.
we do feel that people have something important to say. We do feel that their thought process, how they came to what they believe in and why they believe in that is important for people to read and understand. I think in order to kind of build bridges among all of this divisiveness in this country among a two-party system is to understand what the other side is thinking. Why do they think that? From their personal
What are their life experiences?
Right. What are their life experiences that mold them to think this way? And unless you can hear the other side, you might not agree with them, but at least you have some sort of understanding where they came from, why they think that way.
Absolutely. Well, we have come to the end of our time together. Can you guys tell us where your site is located so people can go and take a look, and what do they have to do to actually join the site, etc.?
I've just joined.
Easy to find. It's www.yabberz, YABBERZ.com, and we provide a standard menu of ways to join with email, Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo, Discuss It, Google+. All those are options to join. And if you want to find us on Facebook, you can find our Facebook page at, just search on Yabberz. It's right there, facebook.com/Yabberz, YABBERZ.
And you guys can also email us at Melissa, MELISSA, @Yabberz, or Mike @Yabberz.com.
Absolutely. And all of the information about the Yabberz website is on the website for today's radio page, www.xandergibb.com/radio. And as you heard, I am the only celebrity that is on Yabberz, even though I am a celebrity.
Excuse me.
Everyone knows you got celebrities on Yabberz.
I'm sorry, Ty just joined. I'm sorry.
Excuse me. I now have...
All right, rock and roll.
I know. Thank you very much. I now have a stream. My stream is Tyhe Egar on Yabberz. I have just joined. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I stand corrected. But for now, thank you so much for joining us, Mike and Melissa Horton, the joint founders, the co-founders of Yabberz. Make sure you go check them out and let them know that Xander and Ty sent you along. All right, thanks for joining us, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was indeed Mike and Melissa Horton from Yabberz. Make sure you go check them out, www.yabberz.com. And there are now 2 celebrities on there. There are myself and the fabulous Tyhe Egar. Yeah, I forgot you said you just joined. That was really funny, actually. So Ty, what are we gonna play out with today?
Oh, you've got me. I
don't know what you said there at all. You broke
Colton.
up, but
did I? Just go for there, Colton.
Okay, great choice.
Colton,
so let me just
Ford.
do the.
Although it's not playing any of my
ready.
stuff anymore. Do you know what I mean? When does his play start? Have we? Was he coming back soon?
I don't know. He was going to get back to me to come and tell us about it, but I heard no more. And you know what it's like here at Xandermonium, we don't chase anybody.
We certainly don't, darling.
So,
but it hasn't started. The play started, though. I don't know.
I have no idea, but we will endeavor to check that out for you. We are over time. Thank you so much, everybody that's helped us to make today's show possible. Thanks to Tony Losacco for providing the Losacco Report. Thanks to Mike and Melissa Horton from Yabberz for joining us. Thanks to the fabulous Tyhe Egar, celebrity extraordinaire, for co-hosting. And most of all, thanks to everybody in the chat room who has joined us today. Let me look for some names. Thanks to Brenda. Thanks to Kathy. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to all of the guests. We are going to close now with a little bit of Colton Ford. I know Ty wanted a big bit of Colton Ford, but guess that's not going to happen anymore. Now it's good night from me, Xander Gibb, and
me, Tyhe Egar, from Glasgow, Scotland, UK. Good night.
Bye-bye. I love you all. Bye.
Something's coming, I'm not sure I'm gonna like it. The way you're acting makes me feel you're trying to hide it. The lights are out, some music's fading, rolling off the page. I'm going through it in a way I can't explain it. It's not a crisis, but I'm sure it's on its way in. You say to me, it's just a phase and then you walk away. Come on, take me, hold me, face it, and tell me it's just a lie that we both give me what I'm hoping. Baby, won't you let me know what's going on? When you were gone sailing across the Atlantic, I heard a rumor that you've been go. I don't really wanna lose you. Come on, take me. Come on, take me.